of our loving and ever-present God. Amen. So when I was in high school, still living at home, we had out in the back of our house a garden. We needed the garden, actually, because we needed that food. Those were hard times for us and our family. And there came a time toward the end of the summer when the potatoes were ready to be dug. And so my dad borrowed a tractor and came over and put behind the tractor a splitting plow. A splitting plow is one that has two blades like this, as opposed to a turning plow which has one blade and it throws the dirt this way. Splitting plow is designed to do what its name says, thank goodness. It's designed to split the road, to open up the road. So I was given the task because my dad and he was going to drive the tractor. I should have known that there was a catch. Well, it turns out that I was then to walk behind the tractor with the splitting plow going down the road. And it was really quite simple. You just pull the plow and the blades go into the ridge, and it throws the ridge out, and then the potatoes magically appear out of the ground. And then the fun starts. You get to walk behind then and pick up all the potatoes. Well, it turns out, and I didn't know this, and maybe you didn't know this either, but that if you put a splitting plow behind a Farmall Super 8 tractor, and you lift the handles just a wee bit too much, that splitting plow is going to go down into the earth, and it will stop a Farmall Super 8 tractor in its tracks. And that's when, of course, the jealousy, anger, quarrels, dissensions, that's when all that began. Because pulling that splitting plow out of the ground was not a particularly easy thing to do. It turns out that when you're using a splitting plow, those of you that use a splitting plow know that it has to be kept, you have to keep it straight. And it goes up and down, as I just indicated, but it also tilts to the left and to the right, and the handles can do this way, so you get it. If you put a hand to the plow and look back, among the other things you're going to do is stop a Farmall Super 8 tractor. And then endure the wrath of your father who thinks that you are not smart enough to get up in the morning. So the gospel of the Lord is the gospel that we have today from Luke's gospel. Has lovely references to the 2 Kings moment when Elisha becomes the new prophet. And Elijah is taken up in the whirlwind into heaven. And Elisha, who loved him dearly, sees him go and assumes the mantle of the prophet as he cries out for his beloved Elijah. The references are there. The idea that the disciples James and John say, this village in Samaria, they're not accepting us here, so let's call them. You want us to call? Please, Jesus, let's use some of this stuff we've got power to do. Let's call down the fire on these Samaritans, which you will remember is the reference to the Elijah story when fire came down on those prophets, etc. So what is the gospel about? You know, even as I'm looking at the gospel, my mind and my eyes turn over to Paul's letter to the Galatians. The works of the flesh are obvious: fornication, impurity, licentiousness, idolatry, sorcery. I don't have that one on my list. Enmity, strife, jealousy, anger, quarrels, dissensions, factions, envy, drunkenness, carousing, and things like these. I got. In my younger days, I don't know whether I was attempting to, check off everything on the list. I got a lot of them. By contrast, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. I got a lot of those too. But that's from getting older. Probably the least of these, I think, is the self-control part. Jesus has set his face to go to Jerusalem. Jesus is turning in the Gospel of Luke, and he's heading down to meet his fate. And that's the marker that we have in this Gospel today. And one of the reasons that the people in Samaria refused to permit Jesus to come into Samaria and into the Samaritan village is because he is going to Jerusalem. And you are all aware of the enmity between the Samaritans and the kingdom of Judea that dates all the way back to the days of Solomon. When Solomon died, the kingdom split apart, and there was a lot of anxiety and enmity between the two. A lot of it lays at the feet of Solomon because of the behavior in which he treated the northern kingdom. There's a lot of hatred, and it's one of the reasons why the story of the Good Samaritan, which is in the book of Luke, is so important. We need to hear that story in reference to these stories. As we all live and walk and move in this world, this gospel is extremely important for us to bear in mind. One of the things about this thing, Christianity, this thing that we are called to participate in, this thing that we are called to share, believe, and do, this thing which calls for us this law that we shall love your neighbor as yourself, and that we should maintain an attitude of love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and generosity and faithfulness and gentleness and self-control. What we are meant to do, and as I listen to the noise outside in the world today, I know how hard it is to be a disciple of Jesus Christ. And the Gospel of Luke today is telling us how hard that will be. That's what this Gospel is about. That's what this Gospel is about. That it is very difficult. That if you choose to do this thing, this Christianity thing, especially in this world, this 21st century, with the noise that we hear outside and all of the things that are happening in this world, you find it very difficult. One finds it very difficult. Someone says, I will follow you wherever you go. And Jesus says, well, for those of us who follow me, for those persons who follow me, it is going to be very difficult to find a place of respite and rest and comfort and peace. And if someone says, well, let me first go and bury my dead, and Jesus said, let the dead bury their own dead. He's talking about the spiritually dead. The spiritually dead. Let the spiritually dead bury the dead. Those of you who are alive in the Spirit have work to do. You have work to do, my brothers and sisters. We all have work to do. And then in echo of the words of Elisha, I will follow the Lord, but let me first say farewell to those at my home. Remember that story where Elisha said, I just say goodbye to everybody, and Elijah said, nah, no. And then Elijah turned and followed Elijah. Let me say first farewell to those at my home. And then we have that story about the plow. You have to concentrate on what we're doing. You have to keep it close to your heart. The world needs for us to pay attention, my brothers and sisters. The world needs for us to walk in the ways that we that our faith calls us to walk. Well, Jim, I can't change the world very much. Well, yes, you can change the world. You change the world in whatever small way you can. But you change the world. And this gospel tells us that it is hard, and that God recognizes that it is hard to do that. It is hard. But do it just the same. When we walk out of here today, we are meant to have been refreshed, renewed, restored, re-energized, whatever it is that we find in the worship experience. But I would just simply say it this way. When you go out this door today, be purposeful. Be purposeful about who you are, who you believe in, and how you know that faith will drive you to change the world. Be purposeful. Don't let this slip away. Don't let all of this slide. Don't let it slide. Don't leave it to somebody else to do. If you need some help, I'll help you wherever I can. And I know that I need some help, so I'll be looking to you.